Subscribe to our channel for the mysteries and stay for the stories. In the early months of 2013, a young woman named Elisa Lam set off on a trip around the west coast. A trip that she'd been dreaming of for a long time. 21-year-old Elisa was from Vancouver and a student at the University of British Columbia. She was interested in fashion and blogged about both her personal life and her creative interests on her Tumblr blog. Elisa was thrilled to finally be able to see the sights of Los Angeles. Unfortunately though, the trip that had once been a dream came to a tragic end as a nightmare. Elisa was traveling alone on her American trip. It concerned her parents, but so far Elisa had been diligently checking in with them every day. She had also been writing about her experiences on social media, and so far seemed to be having a good time. She was staying at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles' Skid Row, but Elisa didn't know about the hotel's insidious past. She also didn't even know she was staying at the Cecil Hotel itself, as the accommodation she booked was actually part of the hotel that was refurbished and craftily rebranded as Stay on Main. Initially, upon Elisa's first several days at the hotel, she shared a room with some other girls. However, after a few nights, she was relocated to a room of her own. But why? Well, it seems not all of Elisa's time in Los Angeles was as pleasant as she reported. Those sharing the room with Elisa reported she behaved strangely, to the point where it began to frighten them. Then, on the 31st of January, Elisa didn't call with her daily update. Her parents were worried and immediately got in touch with the Los Angeles Police Department. This then triggered an investigation, but it would take several weeks before Elisa Lam was found. When she was, it wasn't the result that anyone had been hoping for. Elisa Lam was found dead, floating in the water tank on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. She was naked, and the clothes she had been wearing on the day she died floated in the freezing water next to her. She lay dead in the water tank for several days, not a single person knowing she was there either. Elisa's body was found because the guests of the Cecil Hotel began to complain that not only was there low water pressure, but the water itself tasted and smelt funny. A maintenance worker was sent to investigate, and it was he that made the awful discovery in the water tank. So what happened to Elisa Lam? How did she end up suffering such a tragic fate? There are many theories, but to this day, no conclusive answer. Her official cause of death was drowning, but so far, there is no definitive explanation as to how she ended up in the water tank on top of the hotel roof, a place not exactly easy to access. There are many theories. Some are logical, some are not. Some of them are supernatural. Most are also tied to the strange behavior Elisa displayed in the elevator on the night of her death. The infamous Elisa Lam elevator video is by now both a sensation and an urban legend. It was originally released online by the LAPD during the initial stage of the investigation before Elisa's body had been found. Then it found its way to YouTube, and of course, as videos like this always do, went viral. But why was this video such a talking point on the internet? Well, it's because what's happening in it is such a mystery. The video footage is taken from the elevator security camera in the Cecil Hotel. It shows Elisa getting into the elevator, and at first standing there calmly. Then things become strange. Elisa begins to dart in and out of the elevator, as if she's checking something in the hallway, and then hiding back in the elevator. As the video progresses, Elisa at one point pushes all of the buttons on the elevator control panel, and continues to walk in and out of the elevator, which is showing no signs of moving either. In some parts of the video, Elisa isn't visible, and all we can see are strange movements she's making with her hands. It's almost as if she's having a conversation with someone. When she exits the elevator for the final time, the video continues. The elevator stays for a little while longer, its doors still open. Then, the door closes, but reopens a few times. The video finally ends after 4 minutes. What was happening to Elisa Lam in the elevator video is as much a mystery as her death. Let's start with some of the more outlandish theories that have circulated from the internet, before we get into discussing the more likely causes of Elisa Lam's tragic death. One of the most widespread theories on the internet about the death of Elisa Lam relates to the strange behavior she displayed in the elevator before she died. Elisa was not only pressing all of the buttons on the control panel, she seemed to also be pressing them in a specific order. She would then go in and out of the elevator and seemed to be interacting with someone that wasn't there. All of this means that many believe Elisa Lam was playing what is known as the elevator game. Supposedly, if one goes into an elevator and presses the buttons in a specific order, a portal to another dimension opens up. If the game goes wrong, however, a person can become trapped in another dimension and bad things will happen. Now, this theory is nothing more than a scary story spread by the internet and fueled by some creepy footage. However, it's not the only creepy theory that the elevator footage inspired. Another supernatural explanation of Elisa's death is that she was pursued by one of the many ghosts that roam the halls of the sinister Cecil Hotel. The Cecil Hotel certainly has an unpleasant history. There have been 16 reported deaths at the hotel since it opened in 1927. 13 of them being suicides. The Cecil Hotel was allegedly one of the last places visited by Elizabeth Short, also known as the Black Dahlia. At least 2 serial killers also made it their temporary home. Richard Ramirez, aka the Night Stalker, was rumored to have stayed there for several weeks during his murder spree in Los Angeles in the 1980s. In the 1990s, Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger resided there as well. So perhaps Elisa was actually hiding from a ghost in the elevator. Perhaps her strange hand movements in the video were her communicating with a restless undead spirit. Perhaps things took a turn for the worst and she angered the ghost, ending up in the water tank as one of its victims. Well, probably not. Last time we checked, ghosts weren't capable of murder, even if they're real at all. Moving on, there are 2 more bizarre theories that we need to discuss before we get to the ones that are most likely. The next one involves a conspiracy theory that puts Elisa Lam at the center of a tuberculosis outbreak that hit Skid Row a short while after her death. According to some, it's no coincidence that the outbreak happened very soon after Elisa's body was discovered. The way the theory goes is that Elisa Lam was actually a biological weapon, designed to infect the homeless population of Skid Row with tuberculosis. Other theorists believe she may have been trialing a new type of tuberculosis medication. Some types of tuberculosis medication can cause strange behavior, similar to how Elisa was behaving in the elevator. Then there is the coincidence of one of the kits used to test for tuberculosis being called the Lam-Elisa test, and the fact that Elisa's place of study, the University of British Columbia, is a place where tuberculosis is studied. The Lam-Elisa test is certainly not named for Elisa Lam. It's actually an acronym for lipoarabinoburum, LAM, enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, ELISA. Also, there was no sign of any tuberculosis in her body when an autopsy was performed. Finally, if Elisa Lam was indeed intended to be a test subject for tuberculosis medication, it's very unlikely that she would have been allowed to simply wander off on a vacation. The last strange theory is that someone murdered Elisa Lam, and they were copying the events of the film called Dark Water. Now, the Elisa Lam murder theory is more a logical one, and something that we will discuss in more detail shortly. What isn't as likely is that the murderer was doing it to pay homage to a fairly average American horror film remake. It does have to be said that there are some coincidences between the death of Elisa Lam and the events of Dark Water, and it is those coincidences that conspiracy theorists have pounced on in order to support their ideas. The main theory is that Elisa's body was found in a water tank and it polluted the water of the building that the water tank serviced. Similar events happened in dark water. Then there is the fact that the names of the film's main characters are Dahlia and Cecilia. Some people claim that this is connected to the Cecil Hotel because Cecilia relates to Cecil and Dahlia relates to the Black Dahlia, who may or may not have even been at the hotel. There's also a malfunctioning elevator in the film, and the building in it is in a poor state, just like the Cecil Hotel. The theorists even claim that some details as small of what Elisa was wearing on the night she died tie with the death of the events of Dark Water. The little girl in the film is wearing a red jacket. Elisa was wearing a red hoodie on the night she died. Now, while the movie Dark Water does have some eerie similarity to what happened to Elisa Lam, to say that someone staged an elaborate murder plot to replicate some parts of this horror movie is a bit far-fetched. The idea that she was murdered, although not by someone trying to recreate Dark Water, is, however, one of the more logical theories. It is known that on the night Elisa Lam died, she was seen with 2 other men. They disappeared after a while and weren't seen again, but not before they gave her a box. The box, along with other things belonging to Elisa Lam, was found in the hotel's basement after her death, but with no traceable fingerprints. Some speculate that Elisa's strange behavior in the elevator was actually her trying to hide from someone. It would certainly explain why she seemed to be trying to flatten herself against the elevator wall, and why she was darting in and out as if she was trying to look to see if someone was following her. The theory that she was murdered also helps to explain how she managed to get into the water tank in the first place. Entry onto the roof of the Cecil Hotel is not exactly an easy task. She had to get to the 15th floor of the hotel, go up the staircase to the access roof, turn off the alarm before opening the locked door, climb up a ladder onto a platform where the water tanks were, and then finally climb into the water tank. It was also initially reported that the water tank Elisa was found in had the lid pulled back over the top, which is impossible to do from the inside. This led to speculation that she must have been put in the tank by someone, as she wouldn't have been able to close it herself. However, this was actually a mistake, and the water tank that Elisa Lam was found in actually had its lid still open. This makes it more believable that she could have gone into the tank by herself. And that's where the last 2 theories of the mysterious case of Elisa Lam come into play. One theory suggests that Elisa went into the tank on purpose to commit suicide. Now, while Elisa did write about her mental health issues on her blog, there was no prior indication that she was planning suicide. In fact, one of the last things she was seen doing was buying books to gift her family, meaning that she likely had every intention of returning home to Canada. The other theory suggests that Elisa fell into the water tank accidentally while suffering from an episode either brought on by illicit substances or her bipolar disorder. However, the theory of her using drugs or alcohol is ruled out by the autopsy on her body, which did not detect any substance abuse. There is more evidence to support an episode brought on by her bipolar disorder. Elisa took 4 different types of medication, and her autopsy showed that she had not been taking all of them as regularly as needed. Her behavior in the elevator and her subsequent death could all have been the tragic result of her not taking her medication. She may have fallen into the water tank but not been able to scale its smooth metal surfaces and get out again. There is also a simple explanation as to why she was found undressed. It may have been a way to remain floating more easily, as wet clothes can drag a person underwater with their weight. While there are many theories about how Elisa Lam died, one thing is for certain: her death is a tragedy, and any discussion of it should be done so respectfully. It can be fascinating to speculate what happened to a person, and we may think we're helping by trying to uncover the truth, but at the end of the day, we should remember that we are dealing with someone's memory. What are your thoughts about the strange death of Elisa Lam, and about the Cecil Hotel in general? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked this video, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel for more interesting videos just like this one.